Superman just became Darkseid in the newest issue of DC K.O.
Peak fiction incoming.
So the Absolute Universe and Main Universe are sort of colliding in DC's latest event, and despite the first issue being nothing less than absolute insanity, the second issue is somehow even crazier because of so many different things. So without further ado, if you guys don't remember, the last issue consisted of Absolute Darkseid breaking into DC's main universe and terrorizing practically every square inch of Earth, because thanks to the amount of Omega energy he has now, he's able to be in multiple places at once. So he was able to terrorize the Bat family in Gotham, the Trinity in Metropolis, and other heroes around the world at the exact same time. However, before successfully conquering everything in sight, Time Trapper and the rest of the Quantum Quorum combined their powers to rewind time before Darkseid's arrival, where all the heroes eventually came to the conclusion that in order to defeat Darkseid, one of them would have to win over the Heart of Apocalypse by competing in a giant tournament where they'd all have to fight against each other. Unfortunately, as the tournament took place though, heroes like Shazam, Blue Beetle, and even Batman weren't so lucky to make it out alive, because whether they were impaled by an arch nemesis or blasted by a horde of Omega demons, in one way or another they were prevented from crossing the finish line. Nevertheless, when the first round of the tournament was all said and done, there were 32 characters and counting that ended up qualifying, but unbeknownst to them though, the Heart of Apocalypse claimed that there was actually a secret champion they'd have to compete against if they wanted to be crowned the King Omega, who ended up being none other than Darkseid himself, who was possessing Booster Gold's body. This issue, on the other hand, picks up during another moment in the past where the Trinity was playing board games together right before Darkseid invaded, and after exchanging some friendly banter about these revealing outfits that they wore in the past, Bruce expressed that they should play a game that was suggested to him by Tim Drake, where they predicted what each other's occupations would be if they weren't superheroes, and they also couldn't have the same jobs they have now during their normal lives. So Clark expressed that he believed Diana would have been a tour guide for national parks so they could see the beauty and humility in nature. Diana expressed that Bruce most likely would have been a doctor because that's what his father Thomas was, but when Bruce expressed that he believed that Clark would have been the president, initially Clark assumed that he was joking, but after realizing he was being serious, he respectfully disagreed, stating that he didn't have what it took to be president. Nevertheless, after that our story jumps over to present day, where all the contestants who qualified for the second round suddenly began appearing into a dark and mysterious realm with no clue as to what was happening. However, it wasn't long before the Heart of Apocalypse started speaking to them for the very first time, stating that the way Darkseid became the King Omega in the past was by taking power away from his fellow gods, so the only way that they were going to move on to the next round was by taking power from one another, because the arena that they were standing in was actually a graveyard where Darkseid left all the gods that he killed, and hidden within this graveyard were 16 powerful weapons from their universe that they needed to find. Some of these items included the God Killer sword, Thor's hammer, a bunch of different lantern rings, and even one mystery item. And once all the items were found, the challenge would end immediately, allowing whoever happened